This week's lesson topic is knowledge. Last week, our key passage about empowerment was from 2 Peter 1:3-4. It said, "His divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life through our knowledge of Him, who called us by His own glory and goodness. Through these He has given us a very great and precious promises, so that through them you may participate in the divine nature, having escaped the corruption in the world caused by its evil desires." In the passages that follow, Peter tells us how to do this. We're continuing on in the passage from 2 Peter 1, 5th verse. It says, "For this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness, knowledge." Knowledge refers to acquired information. As Christians, we need to know what God has revealed through His Word, not just the gospel stories. Knowledge is the key to discerning what we need to live an upright life. It is what Paul prayed for in the Philippian letter. "And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and what may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God." Knowledge is essential to thrive and grow. A young boy asked his father, "Dad, if 3 frogs were sitting on a limb that hung over a pool, and 1 frog decided to jump off into the pool, how many frogs would be left on the limb?" The dad replied, 2. "No," the son replied. "There are 3 frogs and 1 decides to jump. How many are left?" The dad said, "Oh, I get it. If 1 decides to jump, the others would too, so there are none left." The boy said, "No, Dad. The answer is 3. The frog only decided to jump." Does this story sound familiar to you? Maybe it sounds something like last year's resolutions. You see, the will is what enables us or disables us from experiencing change. A freshman at Eagle Rock Junior High won first prize at the Greater Idaho Falls Science Fair on April 26th of 1997. He was attempting to show how conditioned we have become to alarmists practicing junk science and spreading fear of everything in our environment. In his project, he urged people to sign a petition demanding strict control or total elimination of the chemical dihydrogen monoxide. And he did this for plenty of good reasons, since it can cause excessive sweating and vomiting. It is a major component in acid rain. It can cause severe burns in its gaseous state. Accidental inhalation can kill you. It decreases the effectiveness of automobile brakes, and it has been found in tumors of terminal cancer patients. He asked 50 people if they would support a ban of the chemical. 43 said yes, 6 were undecided, and only 1 knew the chemical was H2O, water. The title of this prize-winning project was "How Gullible Are We?" There's a story about a proud young man who came to Socrates asking for knowledge. He walked up to the muscular philosopher and said, "O great Socrates, I come to you for knowledge." Socrates recognized a pompous numbskull when he saw one. He led the young man through the streets to the sea and chest deep into water. Then he asked, "What do you want?" "Knowledge, O wise Socrates," said the young man with a smile. Socrates put his strong hands on the man's shoulders and pushed him under. 30 seconds later, Socrates let him up. "What do you want?" he asked. "Wisdom," the young man sputtered, "O great and wise Socrates." Socrates crunched him under again. 30 seconds passed, 35, 40, and Socrates let him up. The man was gasping. "What do you want?" between heavy breaths followed the wheezed, "Knowledge, O wise and wonderful." Socrates jammed him under again. 40 seconds passed. 50. "What do you want?" "Air," he screeched. "I need air." When you want knowledge, just as you wanted air, then you will find knowledge. We really have to want it to be able to obtain it. As we begin the process of developing and growing the knowledge that Peter describes here, keep these stories in mind. We must truly seek them out, and we must really begin to think. Character qualities that we should pursue are the character traits of God. This is the list that Peter gives us here in 2 Peter. He wrote in verse 4 that God has provided for us to become partakers of the divine knowledge. These character qualities are to have the mind of Christ. I really love this quote from Confucius. He says, "Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance." Now consider this passage from Hosea. "My people are destroyed from lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I also reject you as my priests. Because you have ignored the law of your God, I also will ignore your children." All of us will hit points in our lives when we go into a coast mode. As long as they don't last too long or separate us from God, they might not be too bad. When they become a way of life, like it did for the priests and the people that Hosea describes, bad things will happen. Seeking knowledge can be a bit confusing at times when you read a passage like here in 1 Corinthians 8. But knowledge puffs up while love builds up. We must pursue knowledge, the knowledge of God and the things around us for the right reasons, not for selfish gain. We're going to watch a video clip from October Sky. October Sky is a movie. It's set in 1950s in a mining town. Homer Hickam is a kid with only one future in sight, and that's to work the local coal mine like his father does. However, in 1957, everything changes when the first artificial satellite, Sputnik, goes into orbit. With that event, Homer becomes inspired to learn how to build rockets. With his friends and the local nerd, Homer sets out to do just that by a lot of trial and error. Despite the antagonism of his father and the limitations of his school system, Homer seeks after the knowledge he needs to follow his dreams.
Principles of guided missile design.
I had Miss Waters order it for you a while back and it just came in. I know the math is too advanced for you. It is for me too. There's calculus, differential equations.
No, I learned the math. This is great, Miss Riley. I learned everything. It's the best present anyone's ever given me. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna show the guys. Quit before I go crazy.
That's great. Watch where you're going.
Just...
Where'd you get this?
I gave it to him.
Miss Riley.
Miss Riley, our job is to give these kids an education, not false hopes.
False hopes? Do you want me to sit quiet? Let them breathe in coal dust the rest of their life?
Miss Riley, once in a while, a lucky one will get out on a football scholarship. The rest of them work in the mines.
How about I believe in the unlucky ones? I have to, Mr. Turner, or I'd go out of my mind.
We got issues. Since the fall, when Adam and Eve were tempted and fell, knowledge became necessary for each of us to anticipate and overcome the problems of life. Real knowledge allows problems to be solved and avoided. Good example is if a car breaks down. Mechanical knowledge is very useful. Otherwise, it's unnecessary. And it's the same with all of life's problems. God gives us knowledge to help fix broken people, to protect ourselves from the difficulties of life, and to allow us to give out love and to let it come in. Without knowledge, life would become nothing but a series of problems, one after another. And if the one after another describes your life, perhaps knowledge is truly what you need to begin adding. We can begin by expanding and growing our knowledge of God, by reading and applying His Word to our lives. Proverbs 2:6 says, "For the Lord gives wisdom. From His mouth come knowledge and understanding." And Proverbs 9:10, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." Spend time this week focusing your prayers on increasing your knowledge. Spend time in God's Word, spend time studying, spend time reading, and spend time praying. Thanks again for listening. All right, we're headed off to small groups right now. Have a great week, and remember, keep it real.